pigeon-based computing. That's kind of dubious, isn't it? How do you teach a pigeon what the beautiful is? Michael. Okay, everybody, welcome to Scuffed Science Sunday. I am your hostess with the mostest, Pomatomaster, and today we are going to be covering something that's a little different. On this here Scuffed Science Sunday, we cover the most jank papers that we can possibly find that have been published, that have been peer-reviewed. Usually, a lot of what we've covered has been about body parts and sexy stuff, and we are going into a new genre of questionable papers. Now, this was published by one guy. He does something that I'm not used to really seeing in papers, where he uses the word I a lot. Now, this was published in 2010 in Animal Cognition. So, welcome to the paper by Shigeru Watanabe called "Pigeons Can Discriminate Good and Bad Paintings by Children." Let's get into this abstract. I don't think, is this a long paper? Kinda. So the way we usually do this is that we'll go through the abstract and the introduction, because those are the easiest to read and understand. I give you no promises that we're going through the entire thing, because in fact, this does have a lot of graphs. Humans have the unique ability to create art, but non-human animals may be able to discriminate good art from bad art. In this study, I investigated whether pigeons can be trained to discriminate between paintings that had been judged by humans as either bad or good. To do this, adult human observers first classified several children's paintings as either good, beautiful, or bad, ugly. Where are they getting these paintings from? Do they just like ask their kids for their paintings and then they say, "I'm so sorry, the study determined that these paintings are f***ing ugly, little Timmy. Little Timmy, these paintings are ugly. And not only do we think we're ugly, the pigeon thinks it's ugly." Using operant conditioning procedures, pigeons were then reinforced for pecking at good paintings. After the pigeons learned the discrimination task, they were presented with novel pictures of both good and bad children's paintings to test whether they had successfully learned to discriminate between these two stimulus categories. Why do they use kids painting? I'm still kind of stuck up on that. Why is this abstract so goddamn long? I don't think this is written poorly. It's just so much writing. The partial occlusion did not disrupt the discriminative behavior, suggesting that the pigeons did not attend to particular parts, namely upper, lower, left, or right half of the paintings. These results suggest that pigeons are capable of learning the concept of stimulus class that human name good pictures. So if we say something is good and then show them a bunch of what we think are good paintings, pigeons will be able to, learn what we consider good. Pigeon-based computing. The results suggest that the pigeons use both color and pattern cues for the discrimination, and show that non-human animals, such as pigeons, can be trained to discriminate abstract visual stimuli, such as pictures, and may also have the ability to learn the concept of beauty as defined by humans. That's kind of dubious, isn't it? How do you teach a pigeon what the beautiful is? It's intro time. Let's figure out why this person did this. As far as can be determined, creating art has been considered to be an activity unique to humans. That's not true. Although there have been some studies on the drawing ability of non-human animals, their ability to conceptualize aesthetics has not been tested. Here, I concentrated on perceptual or discriminative aspects of the art rather than motor aspects or drawing performance in animals. A new alternative to the experimental investigation of aesthetics is a neuroscientific approach called neuroaesthetics from 1999. Using functional brain imaging techniques, Zeki has shown that specific brain regions are activated when humans view visual art. Chat, I don't think I'm big brain enough for this. For instance, the anterior cingulate gyrus is activated when a subject perceives something as beautiful. So, a certain part of your brain lights up when you see something that you think is beautiful. Imagine if you could abuse that. Oh, Harold, you really think I'm beautiful? You really think I'm beautiful? Go into the MRI machine right now. Go into the MRI machine right now. I need to see that part of you light up. One serious problem in experimental animal research of beauty is identifying a definition of stimulus beauty. That is, in humans, beauty is not an objectively or physically defined concept. Consequently, our criterion of beauty depends on individuals, cultures, era, and so on. Beauty from one era may not be beautiful during a different era, just as beautiful art from one culture might be considered ugly for a different culture. So if beauty is an opinion, how the f are we going to teach birds what beauty is? Another aspect of beauty is that it has discriminative stimulus properties. People can tell the difference between good or beautiful paintings and bad or ugly paintings, as well as comfortable music from unpleasant noise. Here's the problem though. I don't even know if that's true. There's paintings that I like and paintings that I dislike, but I thought art was relative. So to call something bad art... Actually, hold. I don't like corporate art style. I think this is just bad. Corporate art style, I think, you know, I think we can all just agree this is shit. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going. Wait a second. Hold. They've referenced themselves how many times? 1, 2, 3. I'd like to point out every single one of these papers, it just says Watanabe. Oh no, this one is Watanabe all, but 2 of these papers are just them yapping again. There's no all. There's no other people on this paper. So these are 2 papers they've just cited of themselves just yapping. Oh, whatever. Of course, the human definition of a triangle is a rule that can be described verbally. Chat, what is a triangle? So this seems like very much like no shit, Batman. If you show a pigeon a triangle and it's like, what the f is this? And then you just show it a bunch of triangles over and over again, like different examples of triangles, just like humans, at some point you'll figure out, there is a pattern here. I guess it's the ability to detect patterns. So the bird makes a bunch of generalizations and summarizes them together to discriminate between things. Is yacht about? Previously, we demonstrated that pigeons could successfully discriminate paintings according to artist or artistic style. Okay, he fucking cited himself again. 1 paper, 2 paper. At least there's other people involved with this. 3 paper. This is the same one as that one. 4 papers. He has cited himself 4 times. It's the Obama awarding Obama meme. Understanding the concept of beauty as a summation of discrimination of independent exemplars of beautiful pictures is theoretically possible, but difficult to examine empirically. In the case of beauty, as I wrote earlier, its criterion may depend on age, culture, and individuals. However, we may have a common sense of beauty for rather relatively less sophisticated paintings such as those drawn by school children. There should be some common perceptual features in these beautiful paintings. If so, perhaps non-human animals can learn the human concept of beauty as a discriminative stimulus class based on perceptual similarities. In order to examine this, I used drawings of children as stimuli in the present experiments. Sometimes children's pictures are evaluated from a highly sophisticated artistic view, but what I preferred scoring of these paintings by an elementary school teacher of art and by ordinary adults. They gave these paintings to random adults and their teachers? This was the basic subjective evaluation of naive pictures by ordinary people rather than by professional artists. I then trained pigeons to discriminate these good versus bad paintings by school children and examined possible features of beauty. The purpose of these experiments is not to obtain an anthropomorphic understanding of the discriminative behavior of pigeons, but to analyze the human concept of beauty with discriminative training or ontogenetic contingency in pigeons. They're just testing pattern recognition in pigeons, is what they're doing. Yeah, it's non-machine bird learning. I feel like this intro and this abstract could have been written in a much better way for this final concept, right? We're about to get into the fun part. We just read a lot of yap. I want to see, how did this motherfucker do this? So these paintings are considered good because they were better at replicating realism? Okay, the shit-colored one is kind of awful, but some of these might be abstract masterpieces. The ones above are just better at drawing animals. Man does not like Picasso. What the f does he have against Picasso, dude? They're not bad. 4 experimentally naive pigeons. 4 pigeons? That's it? Site research is crazy. What is that? Sample size. It's the worst of qualitative research. Oh boy. I obtained examples of paintings by children from an elementary school in Tokyo. Watercolor and pastel paintings drawn by pupils were divided into good and bad paintings according to the evaluation of a school art teacher. Ouch. 57 paintings by children ages 9 to 11 years that were graded A, C, or D. by the classroom art teacher were obtained. I considered the teacher's evaluation of an A as good and C and D as bad. 10 adults, students and professors in KO University, ages 20 to 57 years, with normal color vision. Okay, so they made sure they weren't colorblind, so I guess that's helpful. Were individually asked to classify them as good and bad. All 10 observers had to agree that a painting was good in order for a painting to be selected as a good painting stimulus. In the case of a disagreement between observers, classifications, and the teacher's evaluation, the painting was not selected. Can you imagine if this was all done because he has like a kid in this class that keeps getting bad grades on their art and he wants to like be like, you see, these randos and this pigeon thought it was good. The birds can see a liquid crystal display monitor of a computer. So they got to look through a window and then they got to see the monitor with the art on it. And I'm assuming they had to peck at the window. All the subjects were trained to peck the key. Oh, did they have like a little button to press? They had a little pigeon button? Pecking at the good pictures was rewarded by a 4S period of access to a feeder. 4 seconds. Whereas pecking at the bad picture was not rewarded. So they got food. That makes sense. This is highly subjective because when you're grading kids on art, it seemed like the grading was based on how close they could get to good realism, right? In drawing a panda, does it look like a panda? They drew a fox, did it look like a fox? A whale, I can tell that's a whale. A bird, I can tell it's a bird. Meanwhile, these other ones, you can't tell what they are because it's more abstract, but it doesn't mean it's bad art, except for the poo colored one. I think something that was left out is they said they took paintings from an art class from children, but they didn't say what the kids were told to paint. Sorry, Picasso. The pigeons say your stuff sucks. I kind of wish they had done this. They had trained the birds in this way and then showed them a Picasso painting. It's discussion time. We're going to discussion. I do not care about the results because these graphs are boring. I'm bored. The results clearly demonstrate that the pigeons acquired the visual concept of the stimulus class that was classified as good pictures as subjectively judged by human observers. This does not mean that the pigeons perceive the pictures as beautiful as we do, thank God, but instead suggests that they discriminate beautiful paintings as one class of stimuli associated with food reward. They're using the word beautiful here, but when they were talking earlier, the words used were good or bad. So I feel like moving these, like changing what terms are used kind of matters a little bit here. And I don't like how it's being swapped out. They're very different. Saying yes, that's a good painting of a panda is very different than that's a beautiful painting of a panda. In the case of discrimination of artists, Monet versus Picasso, for example, pigeons maintain their discrimination in the grayscale test, so they could tell the shapes without the color. So they could tell what was a Monet. Based in this motherfucker's own paper, the pigeons could tell if something was a Monet or a Picasso without color. So they used the shapes. Good job, pigeons. Very cool. I don't think this is fair either because, again, it's Monet and Picasso. You can just discriminate it without color. Even humans can do that, right? Whereas this is like a completely different situation. It's not about beauty. It's about what pattern you're being given to follow. And if the pattern is more abstract, you're going to need both. The present results demonstrate that pigeons can be trained to discriminate concept or stimulus class of beauty based on human subjective classification, but this is not what they were investigating at all. It was subjective good versus subjective bad, not beautiful. We cannot, however, say that pigeons and humans have similar aesthetic evaluation of visual arts in general. No, of course not. These findings are incredibly limited. This is a line that basically says, we didn't really find much. I feel like you could have just shown a bunch of pictures to pigeons, just in general, that some were more similar than others, and see if the pigeon can discern them and how they're discerning them. It doesn't specifically have to be paintings by children. This seems like a very roundabout way of doing this. Whether humans and animals share similar sensibilities to sensory events is still an unanswered question. The present results demonstrated that the discriminative stimulus property of beauty for humans can be learned by what? Stop using the word beauty, please. Further studies are necessary to confirm whether or not non-human animals have the capacity for visual aesthetics in a similar way humans do. They don't. The author wants to express his thanks to the elementary school of KO for providing me with samples of children's paintings and Dr. Tad Patton for stylistic corrections. Do you see how few references there are in this? And how many of them are him? 33 citations. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are his. 18% of what he cited was just him. My undergraduate thesis had more references than this, dude, by like a fair mile. So what did we learn, chat? We learned nothing!